What if the very first lesson Jesus taught in his greatest sermon was the one most people ignore today? We live in a culture that encourages people to promote themselves, defend themselves, and constantly prove themselves. Yet when Jesus stood before the crowds and opened the Sermon on the Mount, his first words were unexpected. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." What did he mean? And why does this ancient teaching still have the power to transform lives today? Let's explore it together. Often considered the most influential sermon ever delivered, recorded in chapters 5 through 7 of Matthew's Gospel, it contains many of Jesus' most famous teachings. But before speaking about prayer, forgiveness, generosity, worry, or wisdom, Jesus started with humility. That wasn't an accident. Because humility is the foundation upon which every other spiritual lesson is built. To be poor in spirit does not mean having low self-esteem. It doesn't mean thinking you're worthless. Instead, it means recognizing your need for God. It means understanding that no amount of success, wealth, education, or achievement can replace spiritual dependence on Him. Several years ago, a young entrepreneur launched a small business. He was ambitious, determined, talented. Within a few years, the business became successful. Customers increased, revenue grew, recognition followed. At first, success made him grateful. But slowly, something changed. He began believing his success came entirely from his own efforts. He stopped listening to advice, ignored feedback, rejected constructive criticism. Whenever problems appeared, he blamed others. Eventually, mistakes accumulated, relationships deteriorated, the business began struggling. One evening, after a particularly difficult setback, he sat alone in his office. For the first time in years, he admitted something to himself. He didn't know everything. He needed help. He needed guidance. He needed wisdom beyond his own understanding. That moment became a turning point, not because circumstances immediately changed, but because his attitude changed. He became teachable again, open again, grateful again. And over time, both his leadership and his life improved. His greatest breakthrough wasn't financial. It was humility. This is exactly what Jesus was teaching. People who are poor in spirit understand that they don't have all the answers. They remain teachable. They remain grateful. They remain dependent on God's wisdom. Ironically, humility often leads to greater growth. Why? Because humble people keep learning. They listen, they adapt, they improve. Pride says, "I already know." Humility says, "What can I learn?" Pride resists correction. Humility welcomes growth. Pride isolates. Humility connects. Jesus knew that spiritual growth begins when we recognize our need for Him. That is why this lesson appears first. Without humility, every other lesson becomes difficult to apply. How can we practice this teaching today? First, become comfortable admitting mistakes. Nobody grows by pretending to be perfect. Second, seek feedback from trusted people. Sometimes others can see things we cannot. Third, express gratitude regularly. Gratitude naturally strengthens humility. Fourth, stay teachable. Never assume you've learned everything there is to know. And finally, spend time in prayer, recognizing your dependence on God's guidance and wisdom. Humility is not weakness. It is the strength to acknowledge reality. The very first lesson Jesus taught was not about power, not about success, not about influence. It was about humility. Because humble hearts remain open to growth, wisdom, and God's direction. And perhaps that's why Jesus began here. Because everything else starts here. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. A simple sentence, a life-changing truth. If this message encouraged you, please like this video and subscribe for more practical lessons from the teachings of Jesus. And in the comments, tell me, what is one area of your life where you want to grow in humility? I'd love to hear your thoughts.